have to admit, the first time we went to online learning, I think all of us were a bit overwhelmed. Getting to know the Google Classroom platform, figuring out how to do video lessons, to upload those lessons, to grade the lessons online, to communicate in the best way with the students. All of these were challenges that, quite frankly, were very time consuming, I think, on both ends. I think both on the teacher's end, but also on the student's end. So I think when we first went to online learning last spring, a lot of us spent a lot of time getting to know the technology and figuring out how to use it. And in the beginning, I think that was pretty overwhelming for all of us. So a lot of my time was spent on figuring out how to make lessons that were accessible to my students, but that were also engaging and using the technology at hand. And in the beginning, a lot of the time was used to figure out how to use the technology. And now that we've all gotten more experience with that, I feel like we can spend a lot more time focusing on the class content.
We've got a long way.
I feel like things are going much better this time. Both the teachers and the students are familiar with Google Classroom. Our returning students use Google Classroom in the spring, and even our new students were familiarized with the Google Classroom platform from the beginning of the school year, because some students had some visa issues in getting to the school, or some students joined us later and they were already able to use Google Classroom to keep up to date with the assignments that were going on. So we all have had the experience with Google Classroom, and I feel like we're using a lot less of the time to figure out the technology, and we're able on both ends to spend more time working on the lessons. So from the teacher's side, I already know how to use the technology, and I can spend more time on producing my lessons. And I also feel like on the student side, the students are more familiar with Google Classroom, and so they can spend more time on their lessons and less time figuring out the technology. I'm not saying that there still aren't glitches. Of course, there are going to be glitches, and communication is the key there. And I do feel like students have been better this go around about checking their email and staying connected and using the platform. So I really do feel like that's an advantage this second time around. Definitely. I think I will continue to use technology in the classroom to make the content more accessible, especially for my students that find the English level in classes challenging. So I definitely think that using technology to make the material more accessible is something that I will continue in the post-pandemic world. I like the sound of that, by the way, post-pandemic world. I hope that's sooner rather than later. I also want to say I'm really excited about our new fiber optic internet system. I think that's going to allow us as faculty members to continue to learn and use technology in the classroom, but it's also going to help our students to be able to continue to use technology in their assignments. A lot of our students are really good with the technology, and they use it every day to communicate with friends and family members and to do different things. And I think they will continue, and I hope they will continue to rise to the challenge to use technology to make their assignments more interesting. A lot of them have been extremely creative online in using the technology, and I hope that's something that we all can continue to use as we move forward. So has been a really great learning experience in that regard. I also want to say that even though we've been online, I don't feel like the teaching has necessarily been impersonal. I feel like, especially with my introverted students that don't readily share in class, that I've connected with them in a different way, which has been interesting. They've shared thoughts and feelings that might not have come out in a class discussion. And so I really do feel like I've gotten to know some students on a more personal level, and I've had the opportunity to interact with them in a different way. So I hope these things continue in the post-pandemic world and that we can continue to use technology in the classroom. I feel like it's a really important skill for our students in their high school years, in their college years, and also beyond in their careers when they get out into the working world. So I'm glad that the pandemic has taught us how to better use technology. I feel like that's one of the silver linings in this situation.